makialam. Vote Pilipinas para sa kinabukasan ng bawat isa. May pananagutan, alay natin para sa bayan. Ang boses mo'y gamitin, karapatan ang kinin. Heto na ang pagkakataon para makibahagi ang boto mo. Makapangyarihan, kaya magsama-sama para sa bayan. Vote Pilipinas, kumilos na, tara bumoto ka. Vote Pilipinas, makialam, makibahagi. Vote Pilipinas, kumilos na, tara bumoto ka. Vote Pilipinas, makialam, makibahagi para sa bayan. Para sa bayan. Vote Pilipinas, tara bumoto ka.
Anything with the job. Pasok mga han.
Ito ang debating kukumpleto sa inyong desisyon sa panahon ng pandemya, kawalan ng trabaho, giyera. Ngayon, higit kailanman, napakahalagang suriin ang susunod na mamumuno sa ating bansa. Sino ang may totoong solusyon? Sino ang may konkretong plano? Sino ang tapat na maglilingkod? Kasama ninyo ang Commission on Election sa pagbantay at pagkilatis sa mga susunod na leader ng ating bansa. Dito ninyo malalaman Pilipinas Debates 2022, The Turning Point. Simulcast live nationwide and worldwide. March 19, Sabado, the Presidential Debate. March 20, Linggo, the Vice Presidential Debate. April 3, Linggo, ang ikalawang Presidential Debate. April 23, Sabado, the Vice Presidential Town Hall Debate. At April 24, Linggo, the Presidential Town Hall Debate. Kilalanin natin mabuti ang mga kandidato sa pagkapangulo at pangalawang pangulo dito sa pinakamalaki at opisyal na serye ng debate. Pilipinas Debates 2022, The Turning Point.
Metro Manila is still the world's worst city to drive in. That's according to the latest data.
Hey everyone, to our audiences joining us via Zoom, Facebook Live, and YouTube, thank you so much for being with us today. I am your host, Matt Matias, and welcoming you to the #Bumoto Ka webinar series powered by Smart and Rakuten Viber. This series is a part of the entire #Bumoto Ka campaign, together with other initiatives such as the candidate profile dashboard and the presidential and vice presidential debates. The COVID-19 pandemic changed the world in ways we are just beginning to recognize. As the pandemic forced the world to go into prolonged lockdowns, many lost their jobs and struggled with the online setup and uncertainty of it all. Now, the Philippine Statistics Authority reported that poverty incidence in the country rose to a whopping 23.7% during the first half of 2021 alone, from 21.1% in 2018. This translates to 3.9 million more Filipinos living in poverty. This is a huge blow to poverty reduction efforts in recent years. While the unemployment rate decreased from 17.7% in 2020 to 6.5% in 2021, this still refers to 3.27 million Filipinos without jobs. There is still a lot to be done to help Filipinos succeed amid the pandemic. An effective government needs exceptional leaders that will use our country's resources to its maximum capacity, which is why we're inviting each and every one of you to join the call and say #Bumoto Ka para sa kabuhayan. Now, to help us unpack these issues, I am very, very honored to be joined by these amazing people live on this call. We are very to have distinguished guests with us today. I'm honored to introduce to you our first one. Now, the first member of the panel has been working in the development sector for 12 years, assuming various roles as social entrepreneur, government consultant, lecturer in enterprise development, and a program development manager. He is currently working as the entrepreneurship and incubation manager of PhilDev Foundation, enabling social enterprises and startup development. He is also the co-founder and lead consultant of Strago Solutions Consulting, working with over 80 clients coming both the public and the private sectors, focusing on development, sustainability, and management. Friends, help me welcome Kevin Martin de la Cruz. Sir Kev, come say hi to our friends online.
Hello, a pleasant afternoon, everyone. Okay, so thank you, Matt, for the generous introduction. And it's an honor to be here today.
Honor's ours, Sir Kev.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hop on in to our conversation in a bit. But before that, I'm going to introduce to everyone our second member of the panel is the president of the Minimal Government Thinkers, a free market think tank and NGO in the Philippines. He is also a columnist, a published author, and an economist. He has written 2 books. Number 1, Health Choices and Responsibilities in 2011, published by Central Book Supply Manila, and Liberalism, Rule of Law and Civil Society in 2014, published by the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom Philippines office. Before writing for Business World, he was a columnist of Interaction, Fat-Free Economics from March 2012 to July 2014. And prior to that, he was also a columnist of The Lobbyist, Back to Personal Responsibility from May 2008 to August 2014. Friends, help me welcome Sir Bienvenido Nonoy Oplas Jr. Sir Noy, good afternoon to you. Sir Noy, I think you're muted. Ayan.
Yeah, good
There we go,
afternoon,
Sir
my,
Noy.
yeah. Thank
Now
you.
just, yes, Sir Noy. Now, let me just ask you both, are you ready to hop on in this conversation with me? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Great. Thank you, Sir Kevin. Sir Noy. Now, I don't want to waste time. Gusto ko nang tumalon sa conversation. First questions first. Now, I think this question is for you both. What was the role of entrepreneurship and MSME during the pandemic? And what about now that we're undergoing a post-pandemic economic recovery? Now, I would like to address this question to Sir Kev first, because I know you have a lot of extensive work on entrepreneurship and social impact. Go ahead, Sir Kev.
Okay, so good afternoon again, everyone. So for the past 2 years, 2.5 years of the pandemic, we in Philippine Development Foundation, and even myself, as a consultant, we've been supporting enterprises in transitioning, from being in the survival mode, quote unquote,
Right.
to the thriving mode. Yan. Actually, almost 80%, of based on our survey, 80% of MSMEs around the Philippines, even startups, have severe decrease in terms of revenue potential. And it was in the first 6 months wherein they felt much pressure, when it comes to how will they pivot to digital, how will they make sure that their supply chain will be streamlined so that they can generate more products to the market. How can they even reach the market? So during that time, everyone is struggling. Everyone is trying to pivot. But when the alternative enterprises came, we're talking about e-commerce. We're talking about digital services. Okay, these nature of startups were the ones that actually helped the to open up a new new ways, new avenues to engage the market. So for example, before there was a struggle in agriculture produce na karamihan sa ating mga kababayan na nasa iba't ibang provinces, especially in the northern regions in Luzon, nahihirapan in bringing down the agriculture goods. So there's this startup that actually helped these and agriculture ventures, or even the farmers, to bring their stocks to Manila or to different areas around the Philippines. So there. So in a way, startups, nagipit man sila during the first period, but eventually, they were the ones who provided the solutions for other businesses to be able to thrive this pandemic. Yon. And another siguro point is other than support, they were able to address the needs of the clients. I mean, let's say mental health services. We're talking about making healthcare services attainable for people. So doon na pumapasok yung other than the e-commerce, we're talking about e-insurances. We're talking
Right.
about, 'di ba, all mental health, telehealth, services, So talagang nag-boom yung startups that really cater to personal wellness and addressing the needs of the individuals na yun nga masasabi nating na stuck na sa home. 'Di ba, during this period. Yun, so napakalaki ng contribution ng startups during this time. So there.
Definitely, Sir Kevin. I can totally relate to what you said earlier because I'm from Northern Luzon myself.
Yeah.
So I saw, and I worked at DTI before, so I saw really how MSMEs struggled to find their niche and pivot during this very, very hard time. I think we're talking about the same startup. Is it Mayani? I
Yes.
think it is. There we go. Now, before I ask the same question to Sir Noy over here, I just want to ask Sir Kev, because don't you think it's quite interesting, Sir Kevin, that despite the hell that the pandemic was or currently is, ang dami pa rin nating business registrations. Ang dami pa rin mga negosyo nagsisulputan from the get-go, from the pandemic in 2020, the highest point in 2021. As a matter of fact, in 2020 alone, according to the Department of Trade and Industry, we saw almost 1 million business registrations, both renewals and new business registrations. Bakit ganito, Sir Kevin? How ironic is this? What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so during the pandemic, the office spaces might not open for businesses, no? But
Mm-mm.
the homes become their offices. And siguro two things, no? Number one, there are people who got laid off dahil nga nagkakaroon ng retrenchment, no? Na naghahanap ng ways to find alternative revenue stream. And the
Right.
alternative revenue stream, no, nag-venture sila into yun nga, small businesses, no, na located sa houses nila. So let's say we're talking about food, we're talking about
Mm-mm.
even the live selling. We're talking about, I mean, there are many business entities that came up because they might not be entrepreneurs before, but because they were retrenched or sila mismo naapektuhan ng pandemya, no, yung companies nila, no, ay yung companies ng mga, I mean, as an employee, so they now are, ano, no, they risk this because this might be the only way, no,
Yes.
to survive. Yun. So marami sa kanila, yun nga, nag-start na ng home-based businesses. And
Mm-mm.
yung iba naman, other than that, it's really, yun nga, ang daming ideas na na-spark now nga, no, maybe
Mm-mm.
there are businesses that can be done at home. Yan. So parang
Mm-mm.
kumaga people had the time to really think about what venture to pursue to help the gaps that this pandemic has caused, no? Kasi 'di
Mm-mm.
ba when you talk about entrepreneurship, no, it is a science, no, technically that that creatively addresses problems. Yan.
Right.
And ang daming gaps, no, na nag-surface out na how to deliver food, how to do this, how to do that. So maraming nag-take advantage. Yan. So yun. So two things, no. Yun nga, yung two things na. Number one, many people find this as a way to get revenue, alternative revenue.
Mm.
Number two, maraming nag-open up na gaps, no, na maaaring sagutin ng startups mismo. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Kev. Thank you for those beautiful thoughts. I have to agree. Tamang-tama. Kasi at that point siguro in the pandemic, yun na lang siguro yung nakikita nilang chance to get themselves back up. Right? And I'm sure Sir Noynoy over here would agree. Which is why I'd like to ask you the same question, Sir Noy. Going back to the first question, what was the role of entrepreneurship and our MSMEs during the pandemic? How important was their role during the pandemic? And papaano po ngayon? Ano po ang role nila habang umaakyat tayo? We're in a phase of post-pandemic economic recovery. How important are our MSMEs? Go ahead, Sir Noy.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Ayos, can you possibly show my slide? I prepared three slides lang. I think that that will be helpful for the discussion. Kasi
Yes.
ang nangyari talaga, what really happened is that entrepreneurship was practically flattened, no? So although we're talking about the pandemic here, but how come that the same pandemic that affected the Philippines affected Thailand, Vietnam, America, Europe, etc., has vastly different impact on the economy. You know? So the same virus affecting the same planet, but the impact is very much different. So this is from my column last Tuesday. So remember, we have the lockdown in March 16, 2020. It was supposed to be a 2 weeks lockdown. Kumbaga, 2 weeks lang ito ha, sabi nila, to flatten the curve. But what really happened is it practically flattened the Philippine economy because in the whole of Asia, the Philippines was the worst performing country in Asia. And in the top 50, I think we're the fifth worst performing economy. So our performance in 2020 of minus 9.6% was the worst since post-World War II. Worse than martial law, worse than the Pinatubo eruption, worse than the coup d'etat. It was the worst, no? So again, ang basyan dito, for comparison, why you say that is the extent of lockdown, and the extent of lockdown is measurable by the Google COVID-19 Community Mobility Reports, no? So you have a baseline from January to February 2020, tapos compare mo yung percentage change, no, compared to that baseline. Tapos pinakita ko dito in various countries. Ang lumalabas dito na economies that escape contraction, for instance, Taiwan and Vietnam, they have positive growth in 2020. Sila, nag-growth sila, tayo nag-contract because the extent of lockdown was only say in transit stations, halimbawa yung mga bus terminal, etc. Minus 13% lang sila, tayo minus 60%. So ang kwan dito na I think that there's nothing wrong with the entrepreneurship and MSMEs. They want to be productive, they want to do business, but government has prevented them from being productive. Slide number 2, please. Yun. Ito naman ang impact naman nito sa ekonomiya. Talagang ang grabe talaga. Ang abiyar ng baseline natin, hindi sa Philippine Statistics data, no? Philippine Statistics Authority PSA data. So ang baseline natin, halimbawa, January 2020, before the lockdown, the unemployment rate was, unemployed people were 2.4 million. After lockdown, April, from 2.4 million to 7.2 million people were jobless, and unemployment rate from 5.3 to 17.6%. Again, compared sa January 2022, then back to more or less January 2020 level. So again, there was nothing wrong with the MSMEs. Our entrepreneurship, they're doing the great people, they're doing the heroic job of creating various goods and services to the consumers, but the government simply prevented them from being productive. I will stop there. Yeah. So medyo ang yung lesson talaga na I think that ang bottom line siguro dito is in this case, no, it's not, sometimes the question is not what government should do, but it's not much more of what government should not do.
Right.
If people want to be productive, huwag mo namang pigilan. Yeah.
Awesome thoughts, Sir Noy. And you touched on mobility kanina, Sir Noy. Something I'm very, very interested in right now, because I also have friends working in the transport sector, na Sir Noy. This is a question I want to ask both of you. Pero I'll go ahead and ask Sir Noy first. Sir Noy, what is the connection of mobility to the economy? Kasi the Philippines has had one of the longest, worst lockdowns in the entire world. How come we're still in the bottom of the food chain in terms of economy? Go ahead, Sir.
Yes, and aside from, yung iba, directly sa food, no? For instance, yung katulad ng mga gulay. Kasi ang lockdown kasi natin is not only within provinces, but also within cities. And in fact, dito sa Makati sa amin, even within barangays, no? Yung dati yung mga kalsada, interbarangay, nagsarahan ng gate. So if you're going to, if you're transferring, say, pork products, vegetable products, from Benguet to Manila, maraming checkpoint not only within provinces, no? Like pagdating mo ng Benguet, pagdating Pangasinan, may checkpoint, no? Although may sinabi ang gobyerno na dapat exempted yung mga food. Pero yung sa unahan mo, halimbawa, question yung mga kotse. So maski ikaw nasa likod ka, titigil ka na rin. Kailangan namang sagasaan mo mga yon. So habang maraming checkpoint ng marami talagang natamaan. So I think among the main reason bakit tumaas ang inflation rate in the first few months of the lockdown, not only because of mahirap gumalaw yung mga tao, but ang production, but even the transportation of really finished products or raw materials pag to the market, medyo mahirap din. Yung kaibigan katiwala nga namin, may nasiraan ng traktura, ang bibili mo sa kabilang bayan. Pero pagdaan mo para bilhin mo yung spare part para tumakbo yung traktura, mabagal. Sa punta ka sa umaga, dapat makabalik ka ng tanghali. Makabalik ka ng hapon na sa dami ng checkpoint. So may epekto talaga yung mobility restrictions doon sa economy. So maski yung mga tao, gusto halimbawa, nagde-deliver ka, kung minsan sa kabilang barangay, pipigilan ka eh. Within the same city ha, parang bordering to the point of being irrational na yung lockdown natin, at least from 2020.
Okay, Sir Noy, I had the chance to read your column also. Can I just say I'm a fan of your work? I am fanboying at this point in the conversation. But Sir Noy, right, there is science to prove that the mandatory stay-at-home policies were very ineffective in controlling the virus. Not just that wasn't only successful in uplifting the economy, it was also very ineffective in controlling the virus. But at this point, I just want to ask Sir Kev, I understand, Sir Kev, that you work directly with small businesses, with these MSMEs. So, Sir Kev, could you give me a story or cite an example of a local entrepreneur or a startup in the Philippines that wanted to scale up or wanted to pivot pero was limited by the prolonged lockdowns here in the Philippines?
Okay, so let me actually go to the travel industry, no? Yun yung talaga malaking effect nun. There's this sige, if I may name them, Mad Travel. So Make a Difference Travel. So they are actually a travel company that they are bringing tourists within the Philippines and even abroad, no, to different what do you call it, off the grid places, no, in Luzon and even
I think Sir Kev is in the middle of. Sir Kev, can you hear me well now?
yes.
There we go. Go ahead, Sir Kev.
Okay. All right. Yun. So basically Mad Travel, no, they wanted to they are at the point wherein they have multiple partners in different communities around the Philippines, and about community-based enterprises travel tourist spots, no, that are undiscovered, no, not really supported much, no. So they connect with them. But yun nga, nung time na nagkaroon ng pandemic, no, they wanted to expand to new sites. Ayan, no, so they wanted to go to, let's say, Aurora, or they wanted to cater to more communities. But apparently, the pandemic stopped their entire operation for obvious reasons na yung mobility, no, is a concern. I mean, travel is banned, no. So what they did is to actually pivot, no, na instead na they are, I mean, actually, ito yung magandang pivot story because before they even achieve this pivot right now, they were able to open what you call a mad market, meaning, okay, what to do with the communities, no, the partners? How can you provide possible livelihood or revenue source for them, given na walang travel, nag-a-avail ng travels nila. So they were able to gather na yung goods nila, no? Ano yung mga local goods nyo na kailangan i-promote? So they created a site, they used harness social media so that they can actually promote these community goods. And while they're brainstorming, no, for new for to ways, no, on how they can bring their value to more clients, no. So habang ginagawa nila yung Mad Market, na-realize nila, why not bring a virtual travel experience? Yan. So ngayon, hindi na sila Mad Travel, ngayon sila Mad Online. Yan, they're bringing these experiences, no, to students who are in virtual classes right now around the world to promote, no, Philippine culture, resources, the Philippine travel experience, no. They get to talk to social entrepreneurs, even to members of the community. So in a way, no, they were able to pivot, but yun nga, no, parang meron silang plano, pero buti na lang talaga, no, nag-thrive sila. But yun, I mean, through nahirapan sila, pero they were able to overcome it. Yun.
Sir Kev, is this a Filipino startup?
Yes, there's a Filipino startup.
Awesome. Yeah. Grabe, napaka... You know, one thing about Filipino startups that separates us from the rest of the world, that we're super ingenious. We will find resources. We will pivot. Now, this kind of reminds me, kidding aside, if you're in a public school, if you're from a public school, this science planetariums used to go to your school and you enter this cove and you see planets around, right? So it's like it's an amazing virtual experience. And it's amazing that MAD has pivoted and found a niche to go into despite the pandemic. And now, since we're touching on flights, on traveling, this is kind of a very heavy topic, Sir Noy, but this is what I want to ask you, especially because I know that this is your playground. This is your thing, Sir Noy. How important is it, Sir Noy, that the people we elect on the Senate, on the Vice President, and the presidential seat have an extensive background on economics, on international economics in specific? Because taking this context in a more global scene, because we have heard hearsays about how the Philippines shouldn't be meddling with international conflict, Sir Noy, no? And ang dahilan dito ay because, you know, international conflict has nothing to do with us. Hindi tayo kasali dyan, hindi tayo sasaw-saw. Pero ngayon nararamdaman natin that it actually does, no? It weighs heavily on us as well. So at this point, I want to ask you, Sir Noy, is it important for the next president or for the next set of people to take sides in international conflict? And if we do, ano ang economic implications nito para sa atin bilang bansa?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think for the first question, whether we should take sides on the conflict, I think the answer is no. No, kasi actually, if you look at it, the shooting war is actually limited to only two countries between Russia and Ukraine. It's really the economic war that affects so many countries, no? Like, for instance, the economic sanctions of America affecting, Russia. Like, for instance, okay,
Right.
you have $300 billion of reserve by the central bank, you cannot touch it anymore. So kung ako ng Russia, Russia is the number one exporter in the world of gas, second or third exporter of oil, and third biggest exporter of coal, etc. So if you're not going to pay me, if you're going to pay me for my export, then I will not sell you. And that explains bakit ang taas ng presyo ng oil and gas and coal and even wheat product, no? Because Ukraine and Russia, they supply about 25% of total exports of wheat. So parang mahal yung wheat, some countries they shift to corn at some even shift to rice because wheat is food. Pag mahal naman yung corn, edi sa atin, magmamahal yung feeds, no? Like chicken and pork, magmamahal yung pagkain natin. So mas hindi tayo kasali doon sa gera, shooting war. Ang direct sa tayo apektado sa economic war. So yun na talaga ang problema natin. So first question, whether we should take side, no. But we should be ready. Second question, I think ang tendency kasi niyan, kung nagmamahal yung gasolina, ang tendency kasi ng ibang grupo, price control, no? Price regulation is and I think that's the last thing that we should do. Kasi ang impact na ito, ang result nito, hindi naman sa atin ang galing eh. So bakit masisisihin yung gasolinahan? Hindi naman sila ang nag-cost nito, okay? Hindi mo naman pwedeng parusahan ang gagawin, gumbay mo si Ukraine o si Putin, sasali ka sa gera, hindi mo dapat gawin yung. I think that itong oil price hike, I think it is temporary. It will not last long kasi ang tinitingnan ko kasi dito yung US, like for instance, no, yung inflation rate ng US noong February 2022, last February, was only 7.9%. It's the highest inflation rate of America since 1982 or 40 years ago. Tapos itong November, meron silang midterms election. For now, among various surveys, the number one concern of Americans is inflation. No? I mean, you have the highest inflation for the past 40 years. So, mukhang matatalo yung mga Democrats sa this coming. Hindi, ayaw nila mangyari yun. Kaya ang gagawin nila, I think they will relax the sanction. Once they relax the sanction, I think the prices of oil, coal, and wheat, and many other products will also decline. Kaya yun ang abangan natin, i-relax nila yung sanction. Kaya for the meantime, tiisin na lang muna natin ito kasi hindi po kasalanan yan ng mga gasolinahan, hindi po yung gasolinahan ng Meralco, hindi kasalanan ng mga coal power plants. Bakit nagmahal ang kuryente, nagmahal ang gasolina? So, tiisin na lang muna natin ito at hindi po ito magtatagal.
Dr. Noy, just a quick follow-up question. How long do you think this whole thing will last?
I think for the oil, I was actually expecting that the price of oil would decline maybe by this week, no? Mukhang hindi, kasi mukhang bibigay naman sana si Zelensky of Ukraine, but I think na pag may nang sasaw-saw dyan sa kanila, may nagpapatapang, huwag kang mag-surrender, huwag kang magbigay ng gano'n. Dito mahaba yung nila, yung kanilang ang negotiation sa kayong gera, no? But again, the shooting war affects mainly two countries. It's really the economic war that really affects us.
Thank you for
tingin ko mga hanggang April, May, unti-unti nang bababa ito. Kasi umaaray na talaga ang mga Amerikano. Pag ginawa nila yun, lalong mapipinalize talaga ng Democrats. Baka mabugbog sila sa November election, baka maubos sila sa both in Congress and Senate.
Interesting. Thank you, Sir Noy. So that means wait a few more months for our fellow Filipinos and all. It will eventually go down.
1 or 2 months tiisin natin ito.
Thank you, Sir Noy. It will eventually go down. Good news for our drivers out there. I want to pass the same question to you, Sir Kev. We all know that international economics is an important topic. Pero for you, do you have a contrasting idea of how is it important for us to take sides in international conflict? And if we do, ano nga yung implications nito sa ating ekonomiya? Go ahead, Sir Kev.
Okay, so when we actually take sides, Well, sige, let me go to the implications, no? So, number one is definitely it's a globalized world. We're talking about, I mean, let me look at it in the perspective of, I mean, some of our, I mean, raw materials, no? I mean, syempre, ang supply chains natin, especially when we develop products, looking at it, some of the raw materials are coming from China, and China, as we know, no, we know there's actually a relationship between Russia and China, no? So we can say that definitely, no, it will definitely affect our supply chain, lalo na kapag, yun nga, may forge tayo ng alliance, either of the two. Kasi meron talagang ano eh. Right now, okay, speaking of taking sides, no, admittedly, ako personally, I'm in the neutral space. Kasi definitely, merong kung in terms of business, meron talagang maapektuhan in terms of yung supply chain. And number two, of course, no, the anything no that will actually happen, no, even though it's an isolated incident, no, yung disturbance in terms of let's say sa when it comes to social media, yan, no? Kumaga, yung digital, yung market, no, coming from especially Russia, no, coming from these countries, kumbaga ano yan eh, magki-create yan ng noise to the point na baka magiging limited na yung may engage natin na market. Let's say, okay, kampi ka pala dito, so we're not going to buy your products anymore, etc. No, so these the noise that the circumstance, no, will be creating, no, will actually make people take sides. And when people take sides, no, syempre magkakaroon ng yun nga, kung from economic war to social media war, that will cause a concern in the marketing, no, of certain, kumbaga ngayon pa nga lang sa election, di ba? Pag nag-take ka ng candidate side, parang okay, I mean, medyo may ano na, meron ng concern towards dun sa magiging market mo. So what more dun sa ganitong klaseng situation, lalo na if your clients are from abroad. Yun. So, yun lang. Looking at it from that perspective. Yun.
Thank you, for Noy, and thank you, for Kev. I think what we can agree on at this point is that this is very complicated stuff, right? And I want to jump off from this topic and talk about local labor here in the Philippines. I'm sure we're dumaan tayo sa proseso ng pagiging empleyado. I'm a government worker myself. But I also want to ask you, with everyone going back to the office due to loosened protocols right now, is working from home or is work from home arrangement still be accepted going forward? Go ahead, Sir Kev.
Okay, work from home arrangement. Okay, so I'm look at it, no, from the perspective of industries that will be affected, because definitely work from home will be okay for those let's say industries that are dependent on virtual interaction. So let's say myself, no, in our office, in our nonprofit, no, in Field Dev, we are work from home, because definitely when we are supporting startups, no, we don't have to meet physically. We just have to coordinate with them, no, directly. Pero when we're talking about the let's say the food industry, the real estate industry, yan. So yung real estate, no, let's say ito, no, why people are the BPO sector, they are actually pushing na dapat sa office na lang tayo mag-work, di ba? I mean, merong pinupush na dapat by April, di ba? Or ano, pero yun nga eh, umaalma doon yung real estate kasi paano yung renta sa buildings. Yan, so paano will they be sunk cost, di ba? So what will happen to them? How about the construction industry, if we're not going to create new structures, given the fact that offices will be rendered useless? So will our homes be the new offices? Yan. Pero to be fair, our internet, no, connectivity has increased. So in a way, yun yung naging kumaga okay naman pala na magkaroon ng virtual industry, no, na work from home. But the problem is, what about these related industries? So yun lang. So yun lang, no, kumaga meron lang talagang cons kapag hindi bumalik yung tao sa offices. So meron talagang industry na maapektuhan. But yeah, I mean, possible pa naman, pero yun nga, will we compromise the other industries?
Right. Interesting. Very, very interesting, Sir Kev. I haven't really had the chance to look at it from your point of view. for me, it was just, hey, I think work from home is very, very doable going forward. Kasi we have been able to do it for 2 years. There's no reason for us to not be able to do it going forward, right? Pero there are other industries involved, like what you mentioned, the construction industry, the real estate industry. These will go. These will all go down the drain, right? If we don't go back to work. So I guess it's relative to the sectors involved. Mhm. And Sir Noy, what are your thoughts on this also? Is working from home also something that you see going forward in the sectors?
I find and I think it's better to interact with people, no? And also for practical reason kasi not all people have aircon in their house, okay? Mahirap magtrabaho pag mainit, naka-electric fan lang. So ikaw, apektado ka na. Pangalawa, yung laptop. Ayoko nga, pag hindi ako nag-aircon, no? Madaling muminit, saka madaling mag-depreciate yung laptop if it is not aircon. Whereas sa opisina, lahat yung naka-aircon, so you give comfort to yourself, you prolong the life of your gadget, your laptop, etc. And it's from time to time it's good to sit with people. Ito pa yung related to doon sa question mo sa pag-elect ng leader. Not only that they have good grasp of economics, but they should have good understanding of the Constitution, particularly yung Bill of Rights. The Constitution is above all laws, above all executive order, above all Republic Act. Maski yung katulad ng IATF, gawaan na sila ng sariling rules, hindi naman sila legislator. Para silang swapang sa power na kasi it's a Bill of Rights kasi. The Bill of Rights protect people from government. It tells government there are some laws, there are some sector or some area that you cannot legislate. Okay, you cannot create an executive order. You cannot create kasi very sacred. Individual freedom and individual liberty is very sacred. Hindi yung tipong mag-create ka lang ng merong health crisis, may virus crisis, may climate crisis, and they will clamp down on your freedom to work, your freedom to move around, your freedom to be productive. Government will just clamp down on you. Hindi ganun eh. I think we need candidates who have very, hindi mo kailangan maging lawyer o maging economist, etc. Just to take it to heart, the Bill of Rights of the Constitution, very basic yun eh. Individual freedom should be, I think, should be above so-called national freedom because ang ginagawa lang ng karamihan naman dyan yung mga nag-impose like ang tawag ko nga dyan sa lockdown is is based on science. Is 90% political science and military science and only 10% medical science. That is what they did. They practically kicked out the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and just created their own laws. And it's ugly. That's why it's important na yung susunod na maupo sa atin, mula sa presidente hanggang senador, hanggang pati sa local government, hanggang sa barangay, may pagkaintindi, may respeto doon sa Constitution. And hindi yung kung ano lang naisip nila na bawal dito, bawal doon, kami lang yung hari-hari, di ba?
Thank you, Sir Noy. So let me just spell that clear for everyone watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, and those joining us here on Zoom. Mastery of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights by the heart is important for those who will be electing on the May 9, 2022 elections. Correct, Sir Noy? Got that. Yes. And I hope everybody got that also. For everyone tuning in on us live. Sir Kev, do you have any 2 cents on that?
Yes, so let me add, the way we are structured as a country, we're talking about local governments. Na yes, may national government tayo, but we have local governments that seeks to address the needs of the respective communities no matter what culture. Kasi since we're an archipelagic country, and we have ang perspective kasi natin, we're archipelagic, we're also regionalistic in a way, at this point,
Right.
may cultures sa bawat region, even in governance, even the way we work, So in a way, if it's very important, yun nga, going back dun sa sinabi ni Sir, na yung Bill of Rights, naiintindihan about kandidato, So habang iniintindi nila yon, dapat yun nga nakikinig din, It's important for us to listen, to each one, lalo na pag national government position, kasi we cannot treat everyone in a similar way na, oh, ito lang ang policy na applicable sa'yo, etc. No? So yung, kumaga, you have the foundation, the Bill of Rights, the knowledge of the Constitution, but there should be constant listening, no? To the, lalo na yung DILG, very critical. Yung magiging, how can they consolidate, no, yung pamamahala ng local government so that, we can really cater to people's needs, no? Kumaga, any infrastructure decision, economic decision, makikita natin na, oh nga, no, this is truly, we're trying to make it attainable to them. Yan, kung ano man yung services or decision na magagawa. Yon. So yun lang. So in a way, kailangan meron pa rin listening, empathy, understanding of the situation of the local. Yon. So that's for the national. And for the local naman, no, since tayong representante ng local, important na, let's say, if may 4-day work week na ibababa, no, kailangan, we are given a varied yung situation, no, ng local, we should continue to also create policies that will help, that will harness, no, local resources, local capabilities. Yan. So yun. So yun yung kailangan gawin ni local chief executive. So yun. So basically, yun lang. The consideration lang yan for those who will be electing this election. Yan. As for, yan.
Thank you, Sir Kev. Just to spell that clear again, who should the national government be listening to? And who should the local government be listening to? So our audiences are clear on that.
Okay. So yung for the national, no, of course, no, listen to our local chief executives, yan, as the representatives of the different provinces, and the local chief executive should listen to the people. Yan. So hopefully, kasi yung national, yung lens niyan, syempre, hindi naman niya makukuha lahat, no. Kumaga, si local chief executive yung nakababad sa community. So important yung coordination dalawa. Hindi yung nag-iiba yung move ni mayor sa move ni national agency. Hopefully, mas nagsisync pa yung dalawa. Yon.
Thank you, Sir Kevin. And I just like to highlight that. Kaya napaka-tindi na ang connection dapat ng ating local governments and national governments ay matatag. At kailangan when you're involved in the national politics and the national elections, you should be just as involved in your local elections as well, because these people will spell out if it's a nay or a yay for us going forward. Tama po. And since you touched on the 4-day work week, which is amazing because that's going to be my next question, Sir Kev. What are your thoughts on the 4-day work week? And will the economy be affected? Should we shift into a calendar like that, a work calendar like that?
Okay, 4-day work week. For me, the 4-day work week, well, it should be kailangan may balance tayo na hindi yung madidiscourage lang isang industriya na nagre-require ng more labor. Kasi I can easily say na dapat output-oriented, no? Give some time for people to recharge so that they can be productive, thus they can produce more outputs, thus pushing for mas magiging focus tayo in higher chance of growing the company because of productive employees, no? Pero kailangan balance lang na pag let's say pag 4-day work week, hindi yung Friday lahat walang pasok. Meaning for some it should be Monday, for some it should be Friday. Yan. So para naman, especially pag government offices yan, sarado tayo ng Friday lahat. So parang paano yung ibang kumaga baka maging under capacity. Kumaga masyadong maraming magbo-book ng Monday to Thursday dahil hindi pala maraming magbo-book, parang lahat ng services Monday to Thursday na lang. Yung Friday may potential to serve people pa nun. So yun lang. Kumaga wag lang sabay-sabay ng isang araw. And I think we will be fine. Yeah.
So yung with regards to yung 4-day work week or whatever, dapat hindi nakialam ng gobyerno. These are the same. And even not all companies in the same industry are the same.
Sir Noy, sorry to push back on that. I think you got cut off a little earlier. Can you repeat what you said, Sir Noy?
Ay susundan ko lang yung binanggit niya ni Kevin no, about the 4-day work week. I think that wag na makialam ang government yan, no? Because not all industries are the same, and not even the same companies within the same industry are not the same, no? If you look at the karinderya, wala silang ganun kasi bukas sila, wala silang break time. Pagbukas nila umaga hanggang hapon kasi anytime may customer, no? Maski bibili ka nga lang ng mga cellphone paraphernalia, hindi nagbe-break time yung mga tao diyan eh, because you never know when the customers will come in, they're ready ka na. Hangga't maaari huwag makialam ang government diyan. Before I forget pala, Matt, no, dapat talagang abangan natin ay yung anong sasabihin ng mga kandidato dun sa utang. Napakalaki talaga ng utang. Tingnan natin na, for instance, yung average na utang ng gobyerno in 2018 was about 68 billion pesos per month. Noong 2019, naging 73 billion pesos per month average. Okay, fine. Pagdating ng 2020, naging 208 billion pesos per month. Hindi per year, per month. 2020. By 2021, naging about 212 billion pesos per month. And 2022, still above 200. Big debt means, or big borrowing means, big taxes that will be required. Ang tanong dito, saan ano ang gagalawin ng next administration? Kasi ang danger kasi diyan, mataas na yung taxes, sampalin pa na na taxes. For instance, yung isa sa proposal nga dito sa paano ibaba yung presyo ng gasolina is to tinker with the train law. Kasi ang tax kasi ng diesel dati is 0. Under the train law, naging 6 pesos per liter. Yung gasolina dati, 4 pesos per liter, 4.30 per liter. Under the train law, naging 10 pesos per liter. So isa sa mga minumungkahay is to temporarily suspend the tax on oil, on diesel, gasoline, LPG, kerosene, etc. For the meantime na mataas yung ano. But it's not, you cannot simply do that because the tax is already it's already a law, it's already a Republic Act. So ang kwan talaga dito ay kung pwede yung sunod administration, bawasan talaga yung spending. Para bawasan naman nila yung pangungutang. Kasi yung kung talaga dito, ang problema nito, katulad ng lockdown, maraming mga kumpanya nagsarahan, maraming tao walang trabaho. Pero sa gobyerno, ang sweldo nila mula sa national hanggang sa local, hanggang sa barangay, tuloy-tuloy. Ang kanilang allowance is tuloy-tuloy. Ang kanilang pension, ang kanilang representative allowance is tuloy-tuloy. From national to barangay level. So doon pa lang talo na agad, kaya medyo strict, medyo matapang sila mag-lockdown kasi hindi sila apektado. Hindi sila tuloy-tuloy ang sweldo nila, tuloy-tuloy ang allowance nila, pati yung mga 13th, 14th month pay, etc. tuloy-tuloy. So bawasan ng spending at bawasan pangungutang. Pangalawa, kung pwede, ay mag-privatize na yung gobyerno. Hindi lahat ng paghihirap, kukunin mo sa private sector, lalo pa sa mga SMEs, sa mga entrepreneurs. Kunin nyo rin sa gobyerno. Ang lawak ng lupa nyo, ibenta nyo ibang lupa. Okay? Military camps, state universities, etc. No? Tapos ang ibang government corporation, like mga PAGCOR. What is government doing in gambling? Where is government in gambling? No?
Hernoy?
So I think it is an important question for those running for president as well as those in Congress. Ano ang gagawin sa laki ng utang pag naupo kayo this coming July?
Hernoy, gusto ko lang pong kaunti pang ipaliwanag po ninyo yung inutang natin sa buong administrasyon. Sir Noy, sa tingin niyo po ba nagamit po ng maayos yung inutang natin? Was it used efficiently, effectively? Dahil kung sa laki ba naman po ng inutang, I think it's only right that we feel it, lalo na yung mga grassroots at nandito sa mga nasa laylayan, tama po. So just very curious, Sir Noy, do you think sa laki ng inutang natin, nagamit po ba ito sa maayos?
Paano was your question?
What was our debt, Sir Noy, utilized efficiently, distributed to the masses?
Yeah, may binanggit. I think a lot of the were simply wasted, I think, no? Kevin, ito yung abangan ninyo kasi yung target yata ng government, yung digital transaction, mukhang hahabulin nila yung tatak nila. I think that it is something that we should, I think you should oppose it, no? May hindi, kaya nga ang point ko talaga doon,
Sir Noy, I think you got cut off, Sir Noy. Sir Kev, while we wait for Sir Noy, why don't you go build up on what he said about digital transactions also kanina and how it affects your sector?
Okay, digital transactions. Not all have well, right now, no, even though we're conducting due diligence in field dev, no, to actually see if they have before we even admit, no, businesses to be incubated or accelerated in our programs. And what we realize is there are a lot of significant amount of documents that are still physical. I mean, and the perspective right now, even in the government, is when it's not physical, it's not true. I mean, it may not be true. So, kumbaga, we cannot really depend on digital documents, no? So, ganun din, no? Pag digital transactions, meaning, may semblance pa rin na people are still adjusting, no? Kumbaga, let's say tax collection will be digital. I mean, it will be nice, pero we need digital, kumbaga, before we even digitize businesses or even digitize operations, no, important to ready people. I mean, magkaroon ng digital readiness ang ating citizens and even local businesses. So maybe from our candidates, no, this elections is very important. How can they? I mean, given this post-pandemic reality, no, and given that most transactions are going, yun nga, digital or communications, no. So how do they transition to that, and how do they yun nga, yung security. Yan, very important, no? Yung security ng data, yung security ng transactions. Yun. Kasi yun nga, nandun pa rin tayo sa phase na if it's not digital, if mas naghahanap pa rin tayo ng physical proof for any documents na ipoproduce ni business. Yan. Even in partnerships with investors. Yun.
Thank you, Sir Kev. Sir Noy, welcome back. That's what we left on Sir Noy, digital transactions, and I asked Sir Kev his thoughts on digital transactions and how it affects his sector. Pero let's go back to you, Sir Noy. You were what were you saying kanya, Sir Noy?
Yeah, yung point niya kay Kevin, I think that digital transaction has really helped a lot, no? And I think that when government will impose maybe another tax on digital transaction, I think that will adversely affect the sector. So I think ang susunod, ang isang important siguro dito is that I'm trying to anticipate where government will impose new taxes, and I think that it may not be far-fetched that instead of reducing the oil tax, energy tax, the government might even increase it.
So, Sir Noy, do you think? Oh, I think Sir Noy got cut off again. But very interesting thoughts,
10
Sir Noy.
pesos, baka gawin nila 15 pesos per liter yan, no? So,
there we go.
So that's the danger, no? And I think that it is important that that we should choose candidates that who are more more sensitive to the needs. And I think energy, especially oil, is a very important commodity.
Hello, Sir Noy. Yeah, Sir Noy, I think you have a little bit of technical problem on your
My
end.
internet is unstable. Okay.
That's what we're talking about, Sir Noy, digital transactions. Here we go, first example right off the bat. But unfortunately, Sir Kevin, Sir Noy, we are a little bit short on time, but I understand we have a lot more to say, and our audiences are thrilled to be hearing more from you. Unfortunately, we're a bit short on time. So last question, I guess, would be, as we draw near the elections, what should voters need to know more about, especially regarding businesses and the interconnection to the economy, and ensure that we move further into this post-pandemic recovery on a high note? Very, very brief answer from you, Sir Kevin.
Three things, no? Uh, business transactions, business inclusivity, meaning it should be easy for businesses to register. I mean, hindi man lahat ng tao no gifted to entrepreneurship, but we should create a space where people can try to start a business, can prosper from it. Number two is more of the sustainability of businesses, because right now, no, we're experiencing a lot of shocks, gasoline prices, even the pandemic, no. So sana we can actually provide avenues of support for businesses, no, such as yun nga, perhaps tax incentives, more of siguro funding, no, loans, avenue for loans, no,
Right.
make it easy for them, no, to access loans. Yan, business sustainability. And lastly, yung digital readiness, no, for businesses. Kasi yun nga, it's another platform that we can harness, but of course, no, it's good that we can improve as well our internet connectivity. But still, no, still a lot of businesses are going digital, no, so hopefully may support si government na to make this industry prosper. Yan. Nabanggit nga kanina, wag nang taksan masyado. Yan, kasi ang daming papasok na businesses na internet-based. So, yun lang. Yun.
Thank you, Sir Kev. Basically, business enabling, no? Tama? Thank you, Sir Kev. And very, very quick answer from you, Sir Noy. A short sentence, what can we do to ensure that we move further into this post-pandemic economic recovery on a high note? Quick answer from you, Sir Noy.
Yes, after I think we should go back to brick and mortar economy, especially food production. Kasi ano yan, like for instance, yung if corn prices will keep rising, then our poultry product will keep rising, and pork and meat and many other things. So we have to go back to I think it's glamorous to do, e-commerce, etc. And I think, but at the end of the day, we need physical goods, material goods, not just intangibles, like e-commerce. We need to produce more materials, particularly food, construction materials, etc. That will release and help expand the supply of the physical goods, physical commodities, that to help bring down the price. Kasi pag-asahan mo yung government, like government will give subsidies to allow people to buy something, that will only result in more borrowings and more taxes and more waste and even more corruption. The way to really beat inflation is to really to stack up and keep expanding the material economy, and that is really going back to the so-called brick and mortar economy.
Thank you so much for your expertise, Sir Noy and Sir Kevin. I am honored to have moderated this panel this afternoon. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for staying with us until the end. Personally, I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners on YouTube, on Facebook, and everywhere have learned a lot from this conversation. Now, we still have 52 days before the May 9 elections, which means 52 days more to gather the right information to assess the candidates running for office. Vote Pilipinas has various ways that you can learn more about the upcoming 2022 national elections. Now, first off, head on to votepilipinas.com and check out the candidate profile dashboard for all the information you need about the candidates. And we are not stopping there. Make sure to stay tuned to the upcoming webinars in the coming few weeks with our next two webinars, hashtag bumoto ka para sa Kamalayan webinar on March 25th, 2022 at 4 to 5 p.m. Hindi lang po yun. Catch the Pilipinas Debates 2022, the turning point this weekend, March 19 and 20, live online on TV and radio. Also mark April 3, April 23, and 24 on your calendars for the next round of Pilipinas Debates. Stay updated on the latest about the Vote Pilipinas activities as the Pilipinas Debates, caravans, and more by joining the Vibe with the Nation with Vote Pilipinas community channel on Viber. Ang gagawin lang po natin ay napakasimple. Simply scan this QR code on the screen in front of you and join the community for a clean and safe election. You can also find Vote Pilipinas through various social media pages. On Facebook, just search for the verified Vote Pilipinas page. On Instagram, Twitter, and follow us at Vote Pilipinas. Subscribe also to the official Vote Pilipinas YouTube channel and stay connected with us to be updated on the Vote Pilipinas campaign. As election day draws closer and closer, we as Filipinos have the responsibility to create changes in our society today. Sa daan ng kaayusan, maaari tayo na gumawa ng mabuti para sa ating bansang Pilipinas. Hashtag bumoto ka para sa kabuhayan ngayong 2022 national elections. Hashtag bumoto ka this May 9, 2022. This has been Matt Matias. Maraming salamat po.